Hey, this is Matt once again with about to another video. Another paid request, this time for DarkMetalSpider. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, tier lists, topics, reactions, commentaries, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1980 film Somewhere in Time, which is a film I had heard of for quite a while, because it stars Christopher Reeve. In fact, I believe this is the film he did after Superman, the movie. Because Superman 2 would come out I think a bit later after this. And when you look at it, Christopher Reeve didn't do a whole lot of movies in the 80s. I mean, maybe for some it'd be a lot, but maybe 7 movies or so, or 8. But you gotta remember that 3 of them would be Superman films, Superman 2, 3, and 4. One was Street Smart, and then he did a lot of films like this. You do tell that, Superman he did because it was the big breakthrough, and he was more interested in period pieces. He's more interested being an actor, and you could tell with the films he picked. Again, there were period pieces where he was a pilot, or there's one where he played a priest. He wanted to be looked at as a serious actor. And I do think in retrospect, I'm sure he was glad to be Superman, of course. But I think there's a part of him that because of that, people would not take him seriously as an actor. I did, because I think he did a great job as Superman, and I liked his acting style. He has a sincerity to some of his performances, but people are always going to look at him as Superman. When's Superman? We don't come back to Superman. Superman. And then, as a person, I don't know. I've heard many stories that people worked with him. He wasn't the best guy. I think some of the people that were the villains in Superman 2, like the Kryptonians, not Terrence Stamp, but it seems like the other two thought that Christopher Reeve was a jerk. I know him and John Carpenter did not seem to get along the best on Village of the Damned. So, but it's still sad what happened. The accident with the horse riding, being paralyzed. And, there was a hope of he would get back somehow, some way, some shape, some form, his ability to walk. And that was the dream, but sadly reality is much more of a kick in the teeth, and he passed away. And I like Village of the Damned. I think his performance in that is very underrated. I thought Christopher Reeve, some people knocked him in it. I thought he was really good in that. And I know he directed but he started in the TV movie Rear Window, where he played the Jimmy Stewart character in the wheelchair. So the fact that to go through that, where you're paralyzed pretty much from the neck down, and still want to direct and act, that's very commendable. Now I know it's about 5 minutes in, I haven't talked about this yet. So this is a time travel story, but it's more of a romance. It's kind of like one of those novels that Harlequin novels, I believe it's called. Pretty much, Christopher Reeve is this upcoming playwright, and one day, while him and other students are talking, this old lady comes up and gives him this watch and says, "Come back to me." And then she just walks away. And of course, him and everybody else is confused. It's about 8 years later, and he has a bit of writer's block. He goes to the Grand Hotel, I believe it's in Michigan, and he starts hearing this piece of music, which is his favorite music. And then he sees his picture on the wall, which is Jane Seymour. Of course, later she would go be on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. I'm not sure what she's doing nowadays, but that was the role people remember the most from. And he listened to who this lady is. She was an actress back in the day of like 1912, give or take. And well, at this point, it's modern times in 1980, and finds out that she was the old woman that gave him this pocket watch. So now he gets obsessed with her. What's going on? What's happening? And then it was still a bit weird of how he got to this conclusion of time travel, because he meets with the old lady's, who has passed away by this point, her assistant slash friend, and she shows Christopher Reeve the place, and there was a book that talked about time travel, and the book is written by a guy who Christopher Reeve knows, or has knowledge of, and then he's still wondering, like, why does this old lady give me this watch, and she has this piece of music that happens to be my favorite piece of music, so something definitely weird going on, and I can understand that, but it's just, even if there's a book of time travel, it'd still be hard for me to even go to the leap of, I bet time travel's involved. It's still a pretty big leap. And the way the time travel is done, I know it's sci-fi, and it's all bullshit, but this is even hard for me to, I say hard for me to swallow and then do a, that's what she said joke. But it's through self-hypnosis that if you believe in something so much and focus, hocus pocus, poke you in the eye, focus so hard, you will be back in 1912, wherever you want to go. Again, I know all time travel, at least as of right now, is BS. So whether it be a DeLorean or whether it be a phone booth, it's all ridiculous, right? But it's, even in a sci-fi, it's like self-hypnosis and believe in it. I'm every day. I don't know how focused. It's 1986. It's the day before Aliens came out in theaters. It's 1986. It's 1986. It's like he does it, gets with Jane Seymour, and the movie goes on from there. I was not big of a fan of this movie. It didn't do that great. Critics trashed it. I can understand why, but it's gotten a cult following. Apparently at the Grand Hotel, I guess every year they show this movie. And there's people that love it. They consider it sincere and a touching love story. I like Christopher Reeve. It was nice to see him in there. John Barry, who worked on many compositions, James Bond among others, he does a pretty solid job on the score. Definitely is fitting with the atmosphere and the timeline, and works well in the whimsical romance story that it's trying to tell. It's cool to see Jane Seymour in there. Christopher Plummer, he's also in there. I remember him the most from Star Trek 6 as the Shakespeare spouting Klingon, but he did a lot of other stuff as well. He plays Jane Seymour's manager that doesn't want Christopher Reeve around because he'll get in the way of her career. And it's directed by I cannot pronounce his name correctly, the guy who did Jaws 2 and then would go on to do Supergirl. That's the same director. I thought this film, for a good chunk of it, was rather boring. I thought it was rather slow. Christopher Reeve is trying to be very sincere in his performance. And Jane Seymour, I don't think is bad. I don't know if they really had the best chemistry together. Or at least when he gets there, it feels like any minute now this could be like The Fan with Wesley Snipes or Robert De Niro, or The Fan with Michael Biehn and I forget the actress's name in that. That was made in, I think, the 80s. Because their test Christopher Reeve is, kind of like pushing, like, hey, I know you don't know me, but I would like to dance with you. It's like any minute now, this could turn, and he could be like this stalker who's crazy. He's so obsessed. I went back to time for you. People think he's crazy. He's like, you know, and you find out he's Jack the Ripper. You know, that'd be a twist. Like, I know there is a time travel movie with Jack the Ripper, but you can find, like, imagine this is how Jack the Ripper was created. That would be like the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong twist. And I might actually have liked it more. But it takes a while, and I understand it's building up the story, but it takes a while for him to get back in time with that self-hypnosis, which, again, I'm like, still, even for sci-fi, very, very wonky. I just don't buy why Jane Seymour falls so quickly in love with him. Yes, it did establish that he was obsessed with her because of the potty watch and seeing and hearing the music and all, seeing her picture, and we understand a bit of his obsession. But why Jane Seymour, who's this actress and probably had so many other fans, why she falls so quickly for him? It's hard to buy 100%. And then even then, the drama, or not really any thrills. There's no action. There's no thrills. It's a romance movie. But the bit of drama is pretty much Christopher Plummer saying, "Hey, Reeve, you can't be with her," which feels, it didn't feel that strong of a subplot. It didn't feel that. It felt as if we have to have something in here so something happens. So there's some kind of drama, some kind of tension where they kind of beat Reeve up and tie him up a bit, and Jane Seymour's wondering where he's at, and he finally escapes. But there's really nothing to it. There's nothing exciting or exhilarating or suspenseful. It's just kind of there, and it's just kind of eh. And Christopher Plummer just, if they wanted to make him a villain, he's not really a strong villain. I mean, he's kind of just in and out of the movie. I should mention Richard Matheson, famous writer, an author. He had a hand in writing the script. I think it was based on one of his stories. I say I think because my memory is not the best as it was back in the day. I did find a funny spoiler warning. The biggest villain in the movie is a fucking penny. That's really the true villain. The true villain of the piece is a 1979 penny. Because what happens, spoilers for the end, he gets out from being tied up, gets with Jane Seymour, they have sex, make love, everything's fine. She's trying to make fun of his clothes. It's like, why do people make fun of my clothes? He pulls out a penny, but it's a 1979 penny. I guess just by seeing that penny, he loses his self-hypnosis focus. And he goes back to the present. And no matter what he does, he cannot get back to the past. Now, I guess also if you go through time travel, I believe they explain that you get weakened. But it just comes off. I get the idea behind it, but it just did make me laugh. That the main villain of the movie. Damn that Abraham Lincoln, that fucking penny. Like, the penny's the main villain. It did make me laugh when that came about. Just the idea. I get the idea, but I don't know. And I get, okay, he's weakened at first. But, okay, heal up, eat some food, get some exercise, jazzercise, I don't know, get some Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, whatever was around 1980, I don't know. Relax, take a week, take a month, take a year. Because if you visualize, you can visualize yourself come back the next day. Because you know the day, you know the time. And it doesn't really showcase how long he tries to go back. Because it feels like he only tried for like maybe up to 1 week at most. Because he didn't really show his, like, okay, if this was him trying and it's 5 years later, then maybe what transpires I could buy a little bit more. Because last time I say spoilers. He tries to focus back, he can't, he tries, he won't eat, he's too sad. And then he dies from not eating. Because people go into the hotel room, they try to resuscitate him. Now, granted, the direction, I don't mind the direction of this scene where there are talks with people who had near-death experiences that feels like they left their body and it rise to the ceiling and they get like a see down. Like the way the camera worked is like through his POV as going up past the other people around him and going up, and then in the same shot kind of turning, looking over the whole overlay of the room. That wasn't a bad camera shot. That was a bit distinct and you're visually telling the story of this out-of-body experience. But yeah, he dies. And then there's White, and then there's Jane Seymour, and then they're in heaven, I guess. Well, not I guess. And then it's a happy ending, I guess. Because a part of me is like, Jane Seymour's old actress character, I'm like, you selfish bitch. I just... You just, I mean, you say come back to me and you kind of lay these clues for him to see her. You could have just been like, you know what, I don't want to ruin his life. He may be happy. You don't warn him anything. I mean, I guess you don't know what really happened, but if in the past you saw him disappear, is there any way you to like tell him, hey, give him a clue that he could figure out so that things could change so he doesn't disappear? Like, she doesn't really give him any clues as to, hey, you did disappear when you went back to me. Maybe there's a way we could change fate. Like, she gives him no clues of any of the sort for that. She gives him all these clues for him to get the hint of time travel, but not, you know, he did disappear in front of me. And, I mean, let me give him some other clues so that that doesn't happen this time. But then it's like, he just gives up life, and I know he's out in love. He's so in love. He's obsessed. And he spent what felt like, 2 days, 3 days with Jane Seymour? Did it seem like, 2-3 days? That's what it seemed like. And he doesn't eat and he dies. I'm like, dude, you've only been trying like, I don't know, a week? What if it was, I don't know, maybe try a couple years? Maybe one of those he keeps trying, but he falls in love with someone who reminds him of Jane Seymour. Same type of interest or same type of... And maybe you find out it's a ancestor, it's a relative, or something to that sort. And he takes, he fell in love, and maybe he's a character that didn't have a lot of commitment before. This is his first time showing true commitment. And then this bad thing happened, but now he's willing to take more chances, and he learned from it. He took this chance, and it was a great experience, and it's gone, but that doesn't deter him to take more chances for the future, to live life and find more love. No, apparently the message is, if you don't get it right the first time, and you don't get back within a week, you pull a temper tantrum, sit in your room, I'm not going to eat. And then for whatever the week or so, or however long it's been, he just dies, goes to heaven, and then that's the happy ending. And I'm like, is it the happy ending? I'm obviously not the right audience for that. I mean, if I want a love story, Starman worked better for me. Ghost with Patrick Swayze worked better for me. Even the first couple seasons of the X-Files worked for me as a love story, but this, again, I thought it was fairly slow. I thought it was fairly boring. I thought the ending was kind of a what the fuck. The way of time travel was even a hard leap to swallow, even for me, despite it's sci-fi, so it shouldn't matter. But it was great to see Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour, and I don't think their acting was too bad and too shabby. I know some disagree and they didn't like the performances. I didn't mind them. John Barry's score, he did the best he could. Fit into the pieces of music they love and worked that into the rest of the score. Commendable. The director, again, he has that one shot I mentioned at the end was pretty decent. The other it's there. I mean, nothing mind-blowing direction. You know, the way they make the past look is decent and fairly feasible, especially for the budget they had. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. It's not like one of the worst movies I've seen. It just wasn't for me. So with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.